Hey guys, welcome back. Today's the day that we review Halo Wars 2's story and judge if we're back on the right track after Halo 5, or if we've taken an even bigger tumble. So this video has taken a long ass time to write and record and edit and put together, so if you wouldn't mind leaving a like and also your own thoughts on Halo Wars 2's story in the comments, I would really appreciate it. Also, I hate to state the obvious, but heavy spoilers ahead, so be wary if you haven't finished the game yet. Right, so before we dive into the details, do I think the story is better than Halo 5's? Yes I do. It's not convoluted, it's not over the top, there's not an overload of characters or 7 different plot lines attempting to intertwine at 5 different intervals. It's just a simple, action-filled, not too deep, not too shallow story that's very reminiscent of Bungie's stories, which might not be a coincidence given that it's written in part by Kevin Grace, who had a hand in Halo 3 and also Halo 3 ODST's stories, 2 widely regarded fan favourites. This doesn't mean that I think it's perfect, however, and trust me, I don't, it just feels nicely familiar. Okay, going into specifics now. The Spirit of Fire's reintroduction in the first scene was fantastic, showing everyone, crew included, waking up from cryo and then going about their previous routines again, with Marines patrolling the corridors, maintenance crew doing their stuff, and Anders and Cutter back in the bridge, all while narrated by Serena's final emotional goodbye. Man, this was an awesome, fantastic, and honestly perfect introduction to the game. The mystery in the first mission leading up to Atriox's reveal was really well done, even though we knew exactly what Red Team were going to. And their first encounter with Isabel, although short, gives off a real horror vibe and sets up the scene for Atriox and the Banished reveal perfectly. The reveal itself was great, seeing 3 Spartan 2's who were previously able to effortlessly take down God knows how many elites, getting absolutely dismantled by one brute, cements the fact that Atriox just isn't another brute, and the shot of the Banished surrounding Red Team while leaving the camp was super tribal and it fit the Banished perfectly. After escaping the Banished and leaving Alice behind, what remains of Red Team get back to the Spirit of Fire, where Isabel tells Cutter about Atriox and his history. Now, I was worried that this would come in the form of a Deus Ex Machina information dump, but it really didn't. We were told only what we needed to be able to understand why Atriox is the way that he is, and it's done in a way that any Halo player, new or old, could understand perfectly. What follows is Captain Cutter's monologue in response. And man, was that a fucking powerful monologue. His statement that essentially, even though they know they're on the back foot against the Banished, they've already defied the impossible and they're damn willing to do it again. It just cements his position as a really strong leader, given that he even gets Isabel to show some hope. And of course, it's followed by an all-familiar... Touching back down on the arc, Decimus' introduction as a more stereotypical brute was enjoyable, and his constant violent berating of you hyped up his boss fight really well, which by the way was actually a really damn well done boss fight. On your way to fight him as well, Jerome notes that he's happy that Chief is still alive, and that it's clear that he fought here at some time, which is just a fantastic little reference to Halo 3. I was really hoping we'd get some of this. After defeating Decimus for the first time, with a very quickly mobilized army of Marines, the location of the Ark's cartographer is found and we head there to stop the Banished from taking control. However, not before we switch to Alice's perspective to rescue some Marine prisoners for the first of 2 times. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed both of her missions from a gameplay standpoint, but narratively, they're just part of a filler B-plot. Next to nothing happens in them, and honestly, they only served to artificially extend the story. Moving back over to the main story, we secure the cartographer and somehow Anders manages to easily interface with the terminal and deduct that Atriox is using portal networks to transport troops across the Ark, and that our next course of action is to travel to these portals and take them offline. After navigating through the Banished flagship, the Enduring Conviction's glassing field, Decimus is defeated once and for all, and the central portal node is destroyed, which shuts down all the portals. Now, even though this is mission 6 and Decimus is dead, his presence in this game was far more than Aatrox, which is a damn shame because he really was the stereotypical brute, unlike Aatrox, who is set up as the complete polar opposite. Decimus overall felt like Tartarus version 2, and I think he served as a nice contrast to Aatrox to remind us that Aatrox, being an intelligent yet strong brute, is really 1 in a million. Now, what I did like about this boss fight was as soon as you finished it and destroy the node, the victory is super short-lived, with the Spirit of Fire coming under attack from the Enduring Conviction immediately after destroying it. However, we're then taken back to Alice's perspective as she defends a small subsection of an island from a banished assault. Now, this mission does add some really cool little story details, notably that banished wraiths, locusts, and scarabs are amphibious, a really cool little touch that I personally loved, and seeing a scarab emerge from the ocean just had me speechless at the first playthrough. I also really liked how this mission emphasised the guerrilla warfare aspect of the allies fighting on the Ark. Having ODSTs in a swamp with suppressed SMGs just gave off a really cool vibe that I think resembles and fits the overarching story really well. But other than that, this mission is pointless to the overall narrative, like it serves no purpose. I would have liked these missions a lot more if they expanded on Alice's character, but they serve no additive purpose whatsoever aside from what is really fun gameplay, to be honest with you. Switching back to the main story, on the Spirit of Fire, Anders gets the idea that she's going to send the new Halo ring, which is in the Ark's foundry, to human space to try and establish contact, but not before disarming it, of course. Now, although this idea is really cool, the fact that Anders, who just woke up from a 28-year nap, during which the Halos were discovered, suddenly knows everything about the inner workings of a Halo, and also how to fucking manipulate it. It's stupid, and is giving me a chilling deja vu of this. Now, I do know that technically behind the scenes, Isabel will have informed her about it, but at least acknowledge this. At least say, like, Cutter, Isabel has informed me about the Halo rings and what they do. It's like, there was none of that, because without that, to us, it just looked like she clicked her fingers and bam, infinite knowledge about the Foreigners and their structures, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, the Enduring Conviction stands in their way of doing this, and you have to defend a Foreigner particle cannon so it can break through its shields, which gives the Spirit of Fire a leg up in the fight, as well as simultaneously allowing Jerome and Isabel to board the ship. Now, this mission is tricky to analyse because it's not filler, because it has to be played to progress the story, just nothing much happens. Once the shields are broken, Jerome and Isabel approach the ship's grav lift in a Pelican, but it gets shot down, which leads you to take control of a sniper squad to go and rescue them, and set up Kodiaks to clear the grav lift of what shot them down. Now, this mission was really fun, and acted as a fucking awesome mirror to Truth and Reconciliation from Combat Evolved. I love that the story is also essentially the same. The sniper units themselves also are an absolute treat.
Sniper team, this is Sergeant Olieri. The banished defenses got the drop on us and grounded Jerome and Isabel's Pelican on the way to the grav lift. Get to the crash site and rendezvous with them for new orders.
They sound so elite and perfectly fit for their roles, which only strengthens their involvement in this section of the story, which, by the way, was fantastic. After clearing the grav lift, an epic action cutscene occurs that really defines the action in this game, and honestly, it felt like a Chief and Cortana moment to me. Jerome defends Isabel from countless elites and brutes as she hacks into the Conviction's glassing beam and desecrates the Ark's surface, which kills a shit ton of banished forces, while at the same time damaging the Ark's surface so much that it triggers a literal swarm of sentinels to attack the ship, cutting off the helm. Isabel, hearing the final cries of her late friends killed by the banished, motivating her to successfully hack the beam, was a fantastic little touch, and Isabel's emotion throughout this entire scene was A+. I loved it.
Identified vessel. Isabel. What do we do, Isabel?
After watching the ship split in half, Jerome retrieves Isabel and, again, in what could be considered another Chief and Cortana parallel, jump out the ship. Honestly, it really feels like Jerome and Isabel are being set up as some sort of Chief and Cortana V2. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I love this pairing. Their personas seem to meld together really surprisingly well. In the aftermath, we get our first and, sadly, only scene with the shipmaster Let Valir, with the ominous shot of the new Halo ring rising in the distance in the ashes of the enduring conviction. And I need to say that whoever did the motion capture acting for Let Valir did it fan-fucking-tastically. His subtle facial details when reacting to Atriox and the changes in the scene were perfectly done. Bravo! Allied forces then move to take control of the Halo's control room, and Cutter is contacted by Atriox for the first time. And hearing Cutter stand his ground against the Brute's offer to spare the crew if they leave just cemented his role as a valiant leader perfectly. This conversation overall was really nice. I just wish we got more of it. With the race on to reach the Halo's control room and disarm it before sending a ticking time bomb into human space, a Retriever Sentinel shows up, which Anders somehow fucking hacks into. Now, I get this story is meant to be far more simple, but come on. This, again, just gave me a really horrible Halsey X Absolute Record memory. After defending Anders against a shitload of Banished, including 3 Scarabs, while she disarms the ring, she manages to launch the remainder of this Banished force into space, in what was a really cool and heavily militaristic cutscene. Major props to Blur for this. In fact, this cutscene itself is probably my favourite in the entire game. However, Anders runs out of time to escape the ring's control room and is transported into human space on it, where she encounters a Guardian, tying her story in with the creative story arc. Back on the Ark, Atriox has suffered a setback, but it's shown that he still has a substantial force left, and Cutter vows to continue his fight against the Banished and take control of the Ark. And that's it. That's it. It just ends. Just like that. One of the most abrupt, out-of-nowhere endings I have ever seen for a story that is most certainly not finished. However, you've got to bear in mind that there's going to be campaign DLC, so take that as you will. Alrighty then, time to score the story. Now, I'm going to be a little bit harsh, and I'm going to give it a 7.7. The pros. The story was refreshingly simple and felt so much like a classic Halo action-adventure on a mystery installation. It was by no means convoluted, just nice and straightforward. The heavy emphasis on guerrilla-style warfare and the story's heavy militaristic influence felt so welcome again after Halo 5, and was an awesome return to Halo's roots. I thought Isabel's emotional side was done really well, and Captain Cutter's monologue was fucking beautiful, and done very, very tastefully. The little references to past Halo events as well, like Halo 3, were a treat. Anything to play into our nostalgia. Anything. And the cons. Well, Anders just seems to, at the click of a finger, know everything about the Halos, from what they do to how to manipulate their weapon systems, and also how to take control of a Retriever Sentinel. It just felt unrealistic, to be honest with you, and heavily reminiscent of an almost equally annoying scene from Escalation. Atriox and Let Valir have about 25 seconds of screen time, grossly underused. There are too many filler missions that, while fun gameplay, did absolutely nothing for the story, and the ending, or lack thereof, just wasn't right. It just ends. Like, there's so much more to tell. It just ends. So that's all for today. This is the first review that I've ever done, so go easy on me in the comments, because I probably broke like 9 cardinal rules of reviewing, so apologies for that. Next time, we're going to be theorizing about that ending, and boy, is there a lot to theorize about. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.